Now, on another day, in a desert not too far away, the coyote was looking for something to eat. He saw a large mesa in the distance, and he thought he might find a small animal sleeping in the shade of the cliff. When he arrived by the edge of this great cliff, he began looking around. But instead of the tasty little animal, he found his old enemy, the fox, sleeping as usual. Aha! Here's my chance to get that fox, thought the coyote. The fox, however, never sleeps like other animals. He sleeps with one eye open. So when he saw his enemy, the coyote, sneaking up on him, the fox jumped to his feet and began pushing hard against the rock cliff. "Help me!" he shouted at the coyote. "Please help me, or this cliff will fall on us and kill us both." The coyote was a bit confused. He looked at the fox, straining and pushing against the rock cliff like his life depended on it. "See for yourself," said the fox. "The cliff is falling." The coyote looked up to the top of the cliff, and sure enough, it looked as if it were going to fall over on him. He jumped to the cliff wall next to the fox and began pushing with all his might. "Whew, that certainly was close," said the fox. "I'd certainly be dead if you hadn't come along." The coyote looked up again and saw that it was still falling, so he pushed very hard, so hard that he was kicking up ground with his feet. "We're doomed," said the fox sadly. "We will probably die here together." "No, we won't," said the coyote. "Help will come soon enough." "No, we are the only ones here, and no one ever comes this way." The coyote looked up only to scare himself again and pushed even harder against the cliff. "I've got an idea," perked up the fox. "There may be a way out of this." "What's that?" grunted the coyote. "I'll go get help, and you stay here and hold up this cliff," said the fox. "Why don't you hold up the cliff, and I'll go for help?" asked the coyote. "Well, you are more than twice as strong as I am and can surely hold it up by yourself. I'll be back in just a few minutes." "All right," replied the coyote, "but hurry." "Push harder, harder," called the fox as he ran away. The coyote pushed and pushed. His arms and legs hurt so badly he thought they would break. A few minutes became an hour became 2. The coyote pushed so hard he began to dig a hole in the ground with his feet. The day passed, the sun set, night came. Oh, it was cold and dark. The coyote shivered and called out for the fox, but the fox didn't come. When the sun finally rose, he was so tired he was quivering. "I can't last much longer," he gasped. Tears were rolling down his face. "This is the end," he thought. "I might as well try to make a run for it, because if I stay, I will die anyway." He gave one last shove, and with all the strength he had left, he ran away from the cliff. When he looked back, he saw the mesa still standing. He blinked. He rubbed his eyes. It wasn't going to fall. Not now, not in 100 years. He had been tricked. The fox was nowhere to be found. He was napping in some dark, cool place far away. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. These are just 2 stories which have been translated from Spanish. There are hundreds of others. You can find stories from Mexico and Argentina and from all over the world in your school or public libraries. Read and enjoy the folk tales of the world. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. Share a story with a friend so our tale
Preceding program was funded in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
The tale of the magic boy, Depostone, was told by the Indians who built their cities in the valleys of ancient Mexico. It is a magical story of the child of a god and the good deeds he did for his village.
Today's story, the tale of the magic boy Depostone, was told by the Indians who built their cities in the valleys of ancient Mexico. In Mexico, there are two huge mountain ranges, the Sierra Madre Occidental and the Sierra Madre Oriental. It was here that the Azteca, the Mixteca, the Tolteca, and other Indians built their magnificent cities, all of stone. Now, since the mountains surrounding the city were always covered by clouds, the people believed that the mountaintops must be the home of the gods. Stories of the gods and their magic are told in Mexico even today, in the modern cities as well as in the smaller villages. Y ahora escuchemos. Listen now to the tale of Depostone. A long, long time ago, before anyone who is alive today can remember, there lived a little boy named Depostone. He lived with an old fisherman and his wife in a house by the river. Depostone thought the old fisherman and his wife were his real parents, but his real father was a god who lived in a giant volcano high above the clouds. In those days, the gods had their jobs to do. They controlled the winds and made the rain fall at the right time so that the crops would grow. The gods discovered many things which they taught to the people. But one of the gods got tired of living in the volcano and decided it would be nice to have a wife and child. So he came down from the fiery volcano to be with people. While stopping by a stream, he saw a beautiful girl picking flowers, and right away they fell in love. So he gave her a green stone, and with that they were married. After a while, she gave birth to a son. Now one day, the god decided he had to return to his mountain to make the rain fall and control the winds. This made his wife very sad, because the laws of her people would not allow a mother to keep a fatherless child. Well, before anyone could take away her child, she put him into a box, and around Depostone's neck, she tied the smooth green stone given to her by the god, and she let him float down the river. And that is how the fisherman and his wife came to find the little baby boy. The box floated down the river and stopped in the shallow water in front of their house. Well, the fisherman and his wife were very happy, for they had wanted children for a long time and couldn't have any. "What shall we call him?" said the fisherman. His wife said, "Well, he has a green stone around his neck. You know, it reminds me of the green stones brought down from the mountains." "Then we shall call him Depostone, the boy from the mountains." So that's how he got his name. Depostone grew up strong and happy with his new parents. They loved him very much, and they took very good care of him. When Deposton was 7 years old, the fisherman made him a bow with little arrows to go with it. "Now I will bring home all the food, and you can stay home and rest," said Deposton. The old fisherman laughed. "You're just a little boy," he said. "But I can shoot anything I want," answered Deposton. "All right," said the fisherman. "Shoot that quail over there." Well, Deposton picked up his bow and placed an arrow to the string. He let the arrow fly in the wrong direction, but the arrow turned around in flight and killed the quail. "There must be a wind," said the old man. "That could never happen twice. See that wild turkey on that tree? Let's see if you can hit him." The old man knew it was impossible to shoot the turkey at such a long distance. But Deposton fitted an arrow to the bow and again shot it in the wrong direction. Again the arrow turned and the turkey fell dead. Well, from that day on, Deposton did all the hunting, and the old fisherman and his wife stayed at home. He left before sunrise each day and returned just after sunset. And when the fisherman's wife asked him, "Deposton, what do you do all day?" Deposton would reply, "I have many things to do." Well, one day, Deposton was walking along a trail when he heard some men talking about an evil giant that lived in the woods. The giant had to be fed a human being every spring. Each year, he went to a new village and demanded that someone be handed over to him, or he would kill everyone in the entire village. Well, the people were very scared of the giant, so they always obeyed him and selected someone to be eaten. Deposton also learned that this year it was the old fisherman's village's turn to supply a human being for the giant. When he arrived home, the old fisherman was very sad. There were only 3 people he could send: himself, his wife, or Deposton. Well, so of course he decided to go himself. The old fisherman did not tell Deposton about his decision. But when the people arrived to take him away, Deposton knew what they were there for. "I won't let you take him away," said Deposton to the people. "He's very old, and he won't make a good meal. I'm young and tender, and will be much more satisfying to a hungry giant." The old fisherman would not hear of it. "You are young and have your life before you. I'm old. I will die happy knowing you are well." "But nothing will happen to me if I go," said Deposton. He begged and begged the old man to believe him. Finally, the fisherman agreed and told him he could go. Well, Deposton immediately began to build a fire by the river. "Watch this fire," he told the fisherman. "As long as you see white smoke, you will know I am all right. But if the smoke turns gray, it will mean I am in danger. And if it turns black, it will mean I am dead." He assured the old man and his wife that he would return, and he went off with the people. Now, on the way to the giant, Deposton stopped and picked up shiny black stones, the kind used to make arrowheads and knives. His pockets were filled with them by the time they reached the giant's castle. "What is this?" said the giant. "How am I to feed on such a tiny morsel?" Oh, the giant was huge. He was taller than 10 men standing on top of each other. "You bring me another," roared the giant. "I am little, but I taste very good," said Deposton. "Why don't you try me and see?" So the people brought in a large pot of boiling water, and Deposton very willingly hopped in. The people then put the lid on the pot and went away. The giant went to sleep as his meal cooked. A little later, the giant woke up and said, "Oh, I'm hungry. The boy is small. He must be cooked by now." But instead of a tasty little boy, there was a giant black leopard in the pot. The giant quickly put the lid back on the pot and went back to sleep. When he woke up later, he was hungrier than before. But this time, the giant very carefully lifted the lid. Well, inside the pot, there was a huge snake. The snake hissed at the giant. So the giant put the lid back on the pot and went back to sleep. The next time the giant woke up, he was so hungry he would eat anything. He didn't care what it was. He went over to the pot, took off the lid, and there was the little boy smiling at the giant. Well, this made the giant really angry. So he picked up the pot and swallowed all of its contents in one gulp. At that very moment, the smoke from the fisherman's fire turned from white to gray. Oh, the old woman cried, and the old fisherman moaned. "He's only a little boy. I shouldn't have let him go." Oh, but Deboston was all right. You see, the giant had swallowed him whole, and he was sitting in the giant's stomach. Deboston reached into his pocket and took out the stones he had collected along the way. He took 2 of them and hit them together so hard they broke in half. The edge of each one of the stones was as sharp as a razor. Deboston began to cut himself out of the giant's stomach. He cut and cut and cut. Oh, the giant groaned. "I think I have heartburn." And Deboston kept on cutting and cutting. Well, by now, the hole was so large he could see daylight. Finally, he cut right through to the outside. Deboston hopped out of the giant, and all the people standing around cheered. At that moment, the smoke at the fisherman's fire, it turned from gray to white. Deboston then moved into the giant's palace and was soon crowned king. After a while, he learned about his real father, the god, and so he went to live with him. Some say that he has returned and lives with the people, except no one knows who he is because he looks just like an ordinary person. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. This story of Deboston is just one of the many tales about the magic boy of the mountains. You can find others in your school or public library. Stories like how Deboston hung the bells and the magic grocery store. Read and enjoy other stories from Mexico and all over the world. Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado. Share a story with a friend so our tale
program was funded in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.